Hello and welcome to Original Soundchat, where video game music is a work of art. On each episode, it's our goal to help you learn about two soundtracks from the world of games, as well as the people, stories, and critical tracks behind them. My name is DeVader.
And I'm Peter Spezia. We're brought to you by Anonymous Dinosaur and Rhymes with Asia. It's time to appreciate great OSTs and the games they come from without getting too bogged down in music theory. Joe, what are this week's games?
Up first is 2012's Yakuza 5, a story following 5 protagonists in a crime drama that spreads throughout Japan, and even throws some dance battles into the mix to go along with it.
Following that is Hideaki Itsuno's return to a character action classic franchise, this time with 3 playable characters in an interwoven narrative, 2019's Devil May Cry 5. It's all about them 5s, baby, but not 45! Get out of here, Trump!
Woo!
Bye!
He's gone! Well, he's not gone yet, but he'll be gone!
He'll
Finally.
be terrifying for the next couple months and a sore loser and a whiny baby. But congratulations to Joe Biden. We are recording on the day that it was announced that he is confirmed as the president-elect of the United States, the 46th president. So, yeah, it's a good day. It's a good day here. Apologies, though, on my end, because I am on a work trip, and I feel like it's been a very long time since I've recorded on a remote setup for this podcast. So yes, different microphone, different sound. Apologies there. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. You know, one of the states that isn't really counting their votes because it's now kind of, well, they will eventually. But as far as when all the tallies were coming in, it was pretty inconsequential. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm. I'm just happy it's over. Oh my god, it took so long.
Oh, so stressful. So yeah, not only 5s in the titles for our games this week, but also these are connected to next generation launch titles, because that's going on this week too.
So much going on this week.
This month, just in general. And then these are also games with multiple playable characters in them. Joe, how are you doing? Election stuff aside, what are you playing?
Well, I put a decent amount of time into Fuser, which is Harmonix's new game. If you've ever played Drop Mix, it was their attempt at an NFC card game that like mix and matched different parts of songs. Fuser is that, but a video game, because Drop Mix didn't sell, and that technology is too cool to not use in something that might sell, so they made a game. I did a review of it. You can actually find it on NintendoWorldReport.com. I think it was pretty neat. And also, for some reason, I decided to load up the Nintendo Switch Online Super Nintendo titles and just decided, you know what? I'm going to play Yoshi's Island because I've never played Yoshi's Island, so I'm currently in World 2-4 of Super Mario World 2.
That's neat. Definitely. I decided to give a couple games a go. I don't know how far I'll get in them, to be honest, but I started Doom 2016 because I was sick of Doom scrolling and wanted to, not only kill some demons at the polls, but also in video games. So I did that. I'm starting the Foundry, so cleared the first couple levels. And then, messed around on Bob on Battlefield and Super Mario 64 on the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection on Nintendo's Switch. Got most of the stars there. That was just on a quick little plane ride over here out to North Carolina. So, yeah, I think I'm just now really gearing up for next gen. Real exciting stuff.
And speaking of next gen, I'm pulling the start of the Composer follow-up news today.
What?
Because I'm gonna mix it up, baby! If you don't know, we talk about a lot of composers and games on this show, and a lot of those series are either continuing or a lot of those composers are still doing great work in the industry, so we like to keep up with stuff that's connected to the things we have talked about. Like, Yakuza Like a Dragon is out today on PS4, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and Series S. The PS5 release is not until March of next year because, wow, Microsoft bought that out from under Sony so hard.
That's some money hatting going on right there, that's for sure.
I'm cautiously optimistic. I actually just put in my order to pick the game up on Tuesday from Best Buy, and I hope I like it. I really do. If you're not aware, it's switching to a turn-based battle system, which is not how the other Yakuza games play, and I'm just kind of worried that I'm not gonna like it as much.
I've heard pretty good things, though, in reviews, so I'll keep my fingers crossed for you. One of the worst kept secrets in games, the Mass Effect Trilogy Remaster, subtitled Mass Effect Legendary Edition, has been confirmed, just announced today as we're recording, to make the day honestly even better on top of the presidential election for the United States. Mass Effect Legendary Edition is basically going to be a remaster, higher textures, better performance, all that stuff of the first 3 Mass Effect games. They didn't really mention how much work they're doing on the first game to kind of bring it up to the standard that 2 and 3 set, but maybe they'll talk about that more in the future. They even mentioned that the games will have added benefits on the next generation of consoles, but primarily it is a PS4, Xbox One, and PC release in spring 2021. But then you can also play it up on the newer systems. So yeah, real excited for that one. It's been a long time coming, but glad it's finally confirmed.
Little bit unfortunate that no Switch release coming with it. I get why, probably, but man, portable Mass Effect trilogy sounds cool.
Yeah, that could have been really neat. I'm just glad to see it all souped up in 4K and all that good stuff.
And speaking of souped up, I don't know why that's my segue, but let's go with it. Let's talk about Yakuza 5. Yakuza 5 was originally released in Japan on December 5th, 2012 for the PlayStation 3. The game would not see a Western release of any kind until 3 whole years later on December 8th, 2015. An HD PS4 remaster was released on June 20th, 2019 in Japan and February 11th, 2020 in the West, complete with a new localization. Its Japanese title is Ryuga Gotoku 5 Yume Kanaeshi Mono, which translates to Like a Dragon 5, Fulfiller of Dreams. It was developed by Ryuga Gotoku Studio and published by Sega. It is, as you might guess, the 5th mainline game in the Yakuza franchise, and the second game to feature multiple playable characters in the series. The first one was 2010's Yakuza 4, which had 4 playable characters, and then there was 5, and then obviously you have Yakuza 0, which has 2, and they've kind of stepped away from multiple playable characters since then. 3 out of 4 of the playable characters from Yakuza 4 actually make a comeback and are playable in Yakuza 5. This is the 3rd Yakuza game we've talked about on this show, technically the 4th if you count Judgment, which I do. So this is the 4th Yakuza game that we've talked about on this show. You should already have an idea as to how this series plays, but in case you don't, it is an RPG that takes place in modern-day Japan and has real-time combat, and that's basically the way to sum it up. Alright, here we go. This was a mistake because I forgot how many moving parts there were to this story, and strap in, baby, because this is gonna be a heck of an intro summary. Here we go. Yakuza 5 opens in the Japanese city of Fukuoka as Daigo Dojima, chairman of the Tojo clan, has come to strike up an alliance with the local Yakuza clan. The chairman of the Tojo's main rival in the country, Kansai's Omi Alliance, is on his deathbed, and when he dies, it's likely that the barrier stopping war between the two organizations will fall. So, the Tojo is looking for allies. After his meeting, Daigo gets into a cab and has a one-sided conversation with the driver. The driver stops to let him out on a random street, and Daigo reveals what he knew the whole time. The driver is Kazuma Kiryu, attempting to live incognito in the city. Kiryu has gone into hiding under a false identity in order to disappear from the life of his adopted daughter, Haruka. Haruka is pursuing a career as an idol, something that would be heavily complicated if the public were to ever find out she was raised by the country's most famous ex-Yakuza. When Daigo disappears the next day, Kiryu is approached by both Daigo's bodyguards as well as a detective from Osaka and finds himself directly in the middle of the brewing conflict between the Omi and the Tojo. Meanwhile, Taiga Saejima is in Hokkaido, serving a continued prison sentence. Saejima is one of the characters introduced in Yakuza 4. He's Goro Majima's sworn oath brother who went to jail after being framed for the mass murder of a rival clan. As he escaped in the last game, he returns to prison, willingly to make sure his record is as clean as it can be. However, when he learns some shocking information from the outside, and a guard informs him that he thinks Saejima is going to be the target of an assassination, Saejima escapes prison once again alongside his cellmate Shigeki Baba, making their way to the snowy city of Sapporo in order to find somebody who has answers. Meanwhile, in Sotenbori, Haruka is training hard to become an idol, aiming to win the Princess League J-pop competition, with her main rivals being a duo called T-Set. While Haruka had been present in every Yakuza game up to this point, this is the first and only time she has ever been a playable character in the series. Also, in Sotenbori, Shun Akiyama has come to set up a branch of his loan company in Osaka. Akiyama is the other character who is introduced in 4. He's a man who went from being homeless to insanely rich directly because of the events at the end of Yakuza 1. He runs a no-interest loan company called Sky Finance. Both Haruka and Akiyama become embroiled in Yakuza business once more when Haruka's manager reveals she is being targeted due to her connection to her mysterious ex-husband. Lastly, in the city of Nagoya, a disgraced baseball player named Tatsuo Shinada also gets pulled into Yakuza business with the mysterious Nagoya family, business that possibly might be connected to his removal from baseball for allegedly stealing signs. Every character has their own playstyle. Kiryu is a brawler, Saejima is a heavier grappler, Akiyama focuses on kicks, Shinada is best when holding a weapon, but Haruka doesn't fight and instead takes part in dance battles through her rhythm game sections. Most characters also have their own distinct minigames, such as Kiryu's taxi driving or Saejima's hunting. Okay. And that's an intro summary to Yakuza 5. So here's where I'll ask. What are our experiences with Yakuza 5, Peter?
I have not played it. I did not know that there were 5 playable characters, but that sure is a lot. At least they seem to keep them different. Though, through checking out your clips on the soundtrack, I mean, it's Hidenori Shoji and company. Yakuza soundtracks are amazing. I'm just curious to learn more about this one, because I've only played 0 and Judgment.
Meanwhile, I love Yakuza 5. In the lead up to 6, me and Matt actually played the whole series, essentially, from Kiwami to 5 to get ready for 6, which was a very interesting experience. 5 is one of the weaker titles, though I think it's like number 4 on my list of favorites, maybe number 3. It's better than Yakuza 4. I'll give it that for sure. Yakuza 4 is, in my opinion, the worst game in the series. Yakuza 6 gives it a real run for its money, though. And I just really like this series. I think that it's the best example of the current writer of Yakuza being very good at characters, though not so good at overarching conspiracy plots, which is a problem he has had since Yakuza 3. But hey, I like this game. And something a lot of people tend to forget is that in Japan, Yakuza is an annual franchise. Most games in the series are in development for around a year. There is a Yakuza game every year in Japan. Every single year. Yakuza 5, however, was notably in development for twice the usual time. So, two years is what that means. RGG's goal with 5 was meant to be a sort of reboot for the series, though I'm not 100% on what that means, because I don't think I would call this game a reboot. Mainly because it's one of those where, like, what, did you not play 1 through 4? Then you have no idea what's happening. They wanted their secondary goal to be making this the best script and scenario this series had yet seen. I don't think they quite did that, but it's still quite enjoyable. I still really like the game. But I don't know if I'd call it best script. Maybe the best script at the time. Though Yakuza 2 would probably still beat that out. I don't know. A new graphics engine was used and would continue to be used for later games like 0 and Kiwami, changing from the engine that had been in use since 2009's Yakuza 3. And the team honestly just wanted this to be a fresh start, especially when the last game that had come out in the series was the ill-fated Yakuza Dead Souls, which, if you don't know, is the Yakuza zombie game. It is not well liked. In fact, Dead Souls sold so monumentally poorly in the West, doing even worse than previous games in the series had done in the past, that Sega had straight up given up on localizing Yakuza games for Western audiences. There was no plan to bring Yakuza 5 out of Japan for years. And then Sony themselves stepped in and offered to bankroll a localization. So the game got a Western release. It was finally announced as a digital download only in 2014. We did not get it on a disc until the PS4 version came out. But hey, at least it came out at all. And it reviewed very well when it finally made it here. Like, it's currently sitting at a Metacritic of 83 on PS3 and 81 on PS4. Praise was given to the game's character and scripts, as well as its satisfying combat system, because this is probably, until Zero, this was probably like the best feeling fighting that the series had. In Japan, Yakuza 5 had sold 590,000 copies by April of 2013. Of course, while 5 was well received by critics, Yakuza didn't really fully surge in the West with 5's release. It made money, like it sold okay enough that Sega took a chance on localizing a little game you might have heard of called Yakuza 0, and the rest, as they say, is history. So without 5, there probably is no 0, and Yakuza probably just would have died in the West. We would have stopped getting games entirely. I don't want to imagine that world.
That's a world where Trump would have been elected a second time.
Probably. That's the timeline. Yakuza, Kiryu is what stopped him.
There you go.
So, Yakuza 5 was actually worked on by a ton of people, possibly the longest list of composers we've ever had on this show, but I'll get to them in a minute. What we're going to focus on is the composer Mitsuharu Fukuyama. He was born on January 10th, year unknown. He is a member of the band H, which is the letter H in brackets with a period after it, which is a band comprised of members of Sega's sound team, including Hidenori Shoji. His discography, that's all the information I could find on the dude. That's it. It's Sega does not seem to let their people talk very much, ever. Or they don't have any interest in talking, which is fair, but kind of a bummer. It always seems to be Sega, every time. In terms of discography, he worked on the Kraken DJ series, which I am not familiar with, but that is apparently how he got his start. He did the music for Derby Owners Club World Edition, Derby Owners Club 2, and Derby Owners Club Online. Feel the Magic, XYXX, and The Rub Rabbits, which are two games I only know exist because Ben. He apparently played trumpet on the Yakuza 3 soundtrack. He arranged a song in Bayonetta, being Splash Wave Climax Mix. Obviously, he worked on Yakuza 4, Yakuza Dead Souls. He did music for Phantasy Star Online 2, as well as Yakuza 5. And then he did trumpet on one song in Sonic Lost World. And this is how I learned that there is a Zelda world in Sonic Lost World, because I didn't know that.
Oh, I feel like I've heard that once before, but that was deep recesses in my brain.
There's apparently a Yoshi world too, but he apparently played trumpet on the Dodongo's Cavern theme on that DLC world. And apparently he also worked on 2 of the Initial D arcade stage games, so that's pretty cool. In terms of historical development research, Fukuyama is the only composer listed on Wikipedia for some reason. And I don't really know why, because it doesn't even seem like he was the lead composer in the game. That's why we're talking about him, because my initial research led me to believe that Mitsuharu Fukuyama was in charge of the music. Does not seem to be the case, because it was worked on a metric ton of people, including Kyosuke Himuro, Yukihide Takekawa, Hidenori Shoji, Chihiro Aoki, Heed Lunch, Afe, Takeshi Isozaki, Zenta, Dig, Sound Drive, Popholic, Yuri Fukuda, Walls Project, Next design, Atsushi Yamaji, Giacomo Antonio Rossini, Akiko Akiyama, and Saori Yoshida. We've talked about 2 of those people being Shoji and Yoshida. That's a lot of people. That is, I think, the longest list of composers we've ever had on this show, and I don't know any game that's gonna really top it.
Yeah, that's a lot. Wow.
Anyways, let's jump into the Critical 5, because I'm out of breath after talking about all of those composers, and I need a break where we play music. So let's start with critical track number 1, Endless Fight. This was composed by Mitsuharu Fukuyama. It is the theme of a gauntlet section, so if you're familiar with the Yakuza 0 soundtrack, it's the equivalent to Tusk.
Sure.
Basically, a long sequence where the character you're playing as has to either fight out of or into a location. It's this really awesome build-up with this intro, with this super rad, heavy synth. That really makes you sort of feel the intensity of the scene at hand. I also really kind of like the siren at the start that really, for some reason, gets you hype. I don't know. It's got a sense of urgency to it, and I think that fits because these sections are usually performed in relatively high-stakes situations.
I would have guessed that this is Hidenori Shoji based on like the beginning of the clip, but once you get to like the piano, it's like, oh no, that's a different sound. It's a cool sound. I like it, but it's a good little clash of sounds there.
We only got one Hidenori Shoji song on this Critical 5 because, again, like, it's so spread out among so many people that was just bound to happen. But yeah, I could hear the intro being a Shoji thing for sure. But yeah, piano seems to be the thing in this game. There's a lot of piano. I don't know.
Which you like.
Yeah, that's true. I am a very big fan of it. But speaking of no piano whatsoever, the worst segue ever, critical track number 2 is What a Funkastic Hit! No, I did not misspeak. The video version, if you're watching it, is not a typo. It is funkastic, not funktastic. Like would make sense.
It would make sense, wouldn't it?
Because funkastic's not a word. But this was composed by Chihiro Aoki. It is Shinada's battle theme. And I think that this song is probably one of my favorite character battle themes in the series, and it's definitely my favorite in this game, because it just has this more lighthearted, whimsical theme to it, which fits Shinada perfectly, because he's just a dude who has, like, probably the lowest stakes of everybody in the thing, because he's just a baseball player that just lives in Nagoya. And he just got pulled into a way bigger situation than he should be in. And look, that bass, though, ooh, it's so good. And also that shredding guitar, just like, we maybe ought to cover Chihiro Aoki at some point, because, damn.
It's a real cool vibe to this one for sure. I also like the vocal accents at the end of the clip there. That's a neat little thing.
I wish I knew what they were saying.
Right? Yeah, just so process that. You can't really tell. But no, I think it sure is funkastic.
It sure is funkastic. What is funkastic, Miss Aoki? Please tell me. Critical track number 3 is the song you're probably going to hear more than any other song in the entire game. So much more. This song was composed by Zenta and arranged by Yuya Saito, lyrics by Ryosuke Hori, vocals by Rie Kugimiya, who is the voice of Haruka. The Japanese title of this song is Konan Janai. I hope you really like this song, because you're going to hear it all the time during Haruka's section of the game. It is seemingly one of 2 songs she knows how to sing, and it's her signature piece. Basically, every story section that requires her to have to do a performance, it's this song. So much so that an inside joke between me and Matt as we were playing the game was him constantly texting me, "Haruka, please learn another song." It is also, to this day, a thing where if one of us says, "Are you ready, go?" the other is required to reply with, "Hashari daso." And to be honest, if you're gonna hear any song over and over, I mean, at least it's a good song. Like, it's a really good song. I think it's disgustingly catchy. It starts to grate on you after 2 hours of Haruka gameplay, but I still think it's like a really good song. I love this song. Just, if you play Yakuza 5, be prepared to get real familiar with so much more.
It is very positive and catchy, and if she's competing being idol, it's got that J-poppy vibe to it, but I'll take your word for it that it can grow on you.
I love this song, but it's just, you probably hear this song like 15 times in the span of 3 hours.
Oh, man.
It is constant.
Well, at least it's a definite good choice for a critical 5, I guess.
Oh yeah, I can't do a critical 5 without putting this song on the list. This was the second song to go on the critical 5 before I even planned out the other 3 songs. But you know what the first song that went on the critical 5 was? It was critical track number 4, Receive and Slash You. This song was composed by Hidenori Shoji.
Yeah, it was.
It is Saijima's final boss, which is my personal favorite song in the game, and probably one of my favorite songs in the series, and it plays during one of the hypest boss fights I've ever experienced in a video game, and especially in the Yakuza franchise, which, if you know anything about the Yakuza series, that is saying something. Oh my god, the fight is so cool, and this song is so good. It is a remix of the Receive You main theme of the Yakuza franchise, and just, and then the piano comes in, and it's so good, and this song is so good. Oh, I love this song so much.
Yeah, I can tell why. It is Shoji being Shoji, being great, and it's got that amazing high intensity to it, and wow, did not expect the piano, but it sings. It's so good.
Especially that part where it just goes into the dun, 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 dun. Oh, it's just so good. Oh, this song rules. It's the best song in the game. But we still have one more song to talk about, and that's critical track number 5, The Mutual Fists. This song was composed by Takeshi Isozaki. It is Shinada's final boss, which is not as hype as Saijima's, but it's still a super memorable part of the game, and it ends with one of my favorite emotional scenes in the entire franchise. Shinada gets one of the most subtly heartbreaking scenes I've ever seen in a game. Wow, it's so good. The entire vibe of this song is just really cool, and like that intro alone, which you hear in the clip, it sends a chill down my spine every time. It's so good. I think for all the crap I give this game, I do think it legitimately has one of my favorite final chapters in the series, and songs like this, I think really reinforce that thought.
You gotta love great intros when it's like a quieter, more pared down instrumentation, and then it has the big drop, and yeah, wow, this one delivers for sure.
It's so good. Just that synth at the start and the piano. A lot of good piano on this soundtrack. A lot of good piano. 4 tracks on the cutting room floor. The first one is possibly one of the most important songs in Yakuza, but I couldn't bring myself to put it on the Critical 5 because it's just a side song at the end of the day. But you've heard this song because it's Baka Mitai. And it's actually a really good thing that I decided to focus on Mitsuharu Fukuyama, because he composed Baka Mitai, and the lyrics were by Ryosuke Hori. This is the first game to feature what is now probably the most famous karaoke song in the franchise. Judgment is probably a very close second, but let's be real, it's Baka Mitai. This song would go on to be in Yakuza 0 and Kiwami, where it would hit memedom, and it also comes back in Like a Dragon, where it has been dubbed into English, and it's actually pretty good in English, I'm not gonna lie. And just the last thing that I gotta say is just Dame Dane.
Okay, here's my dumb self thinking that started in 0. So coming across this song here, I'm like, oh, I know Dame Dane. Like, yeah.
I also assumed it started in 0 until I played 5. But no, it started in 5 and just happened to be on all the games that were built on that engine. And every character except for Shinada and Haruka can sing this song. So Kiryu can sing it, obviously. Saejima can sing it. Akiyama can sing it. They all have their own tracks for it. It's so good. But Kiryu is the king of singing the song for sure.
Oh, of course. But it's great. It hit memedom for a reason. Absolutely.
The other song on the cutting room floor is from one of the mini games, and this one is here for me. And you'll hear why in about 2 seconds, because it's Battle of Pride. This was composed by Sounddrive. Kiryu has 2 types of taxi minigames that he can do. He can do one where he actually drives a taxi and you have to it's really in-depth, like crazy in-depth.
Is it Crazy Taxi?
No, because that one is, you have to follow the rules of the road and do your turn signal and all that. But he also has a street racing minigame where the soundtrack is Eurobeat, because it is against the law to have a racing minigame and not put Eurobeat as the soundtrack. I have made this proclamation, so it shall be. And it's so good. I love Eurobeat so much.
It's almost like you gotta step on the gas tonight.
I wish there was lyrics in this song, or any of them. There's 3 Eurobeat songs that can play during the races. The races are the whole reason that Ben has never made it past Kiryu's section of Yakuza 5. Because he just wanted to do all of the racing stuff. And he just never moved on. Yakuza 5 is a good game. What'll I never forget about Yakuza 5? Obviously, I like 0 way better. And I think 2 has a better story. And I think 5, like I said, it comes in a very close third, maybe fourth. I have to replay 3 to see how much I like that. Shinada is one of the best one-off characters that the series has ever had. He's way better than the one-off character in 4, I'll tell you that much. 1 and 4 sucks. He's a cop, and his fighting style is the worst fighting style I've ever experienced in a Yakuza game. Shinada is such a step up. I adore him. He's funny, like really funny. And he's kind of just a bumbling idiot that happens to be good with a baseball bat, and I love him. It's a flawed game, but again, it's not as bad as 4 or 6. As I alluded to before, don't play this game if you have not played the other games of the series. I think this might be the actual worst starting point you could pick. I could see arguments for starting at 4. I could see arguments for starting at Kiwami. Do not start at 5. Worst choice you could possibly make. I'd recommend starting at 6 before I recommended starting at 5, but also don't do that.
Good to know.
So, for our transition, I'd like to highlight fan cover remix, and man, what song am I going to find but Baka Mitai, which was actually surprisingly difficult to find a cover that I really liked, and I did eventually find one by a YouTuber named Voca Panda Anime Covers, where she did a cover of Baka Mitai. I think it's pretty good, so please enjoy that. We'll be right back.
The other 5 game that we're going to talk about today with multiple playable characters is Devil May Cry 5. Has it really been that long since we talked about a Devil May Cry game?
Oh,
I mean, man. It was episode 6 when we talked about Devil May Cry 3. You brought that one to the show, and now we're on 94.
I brought that one to the show because Devil May Cry 5 was coming out.
Exactly. Devil May Cry 5 was released on March 8th, 2019 on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. There is a special edition of Devil May Cry 5. They generally like to do that with Devil May Cry games, it seems, just adding a whole bunch of new stuff to the game. Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition releases for Xbox Series X and S at launch today on November 10th, as well as on PS5 for its launch this week on November 12th. I'm still having a hard time getting over that both systems are launching this week. The game is developed and published by Capcom, and it runs on the RE engine. And I bring this up because we talked about that recently for our episode with Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Which, odd that the Devil May Cry game gets the RE engine, but oh, it works so well. It's so good.
It's also really funny considering Devil May Cry's origin story.
As the original one being a failed RE4? Yeah, it's a very, very good point. Devil May Cry 5 is a third-person 3D character action game. You're exploring different levels while encountering enemies and bosses, and you're just dispatching them with really stylish moves with weapons, swords, guns, even a hat. You know, everything's on the table. You have 3 playable characters in this game, which is a pretty unique thing for the Devil May Cry series. The first character and main character, arguably, is Nero, and Nero returns from Devil May Cry 4. He is a white-haired punk who has a sword that can be revved like a motorcycle for extra power, and he has guns as well. But for the narrative of this game, he has lost his right forearm. So he's able to equip different trick arms that are customized for him, and they have different effects. You can have a loadout of different devil breakers, they're called. Little trick arms that, you you take a certain selection with you into the level, you can use a super attack on them and then burn them, essentially. You can find more in the world. It's a interesting way of kind of mixing up his playstyle a little bit. Then there is V. He is a new character to the franchise, and he's this gloomy Adam Driver type of figure. His thing is he can summon animal familiars, like a bird and a panther, to deal damage while he maintains distance from enemies, because he can't really do anything up close, except he needs to make the finishing blow on enemies by using his cane on foes.
His animal familiars are actually based on bosses from Devil May Cry 1.
They sure are. And then there is Dante. Of course there's Dante, the classic red-coated, gray-haired protagonist. He's now sporting facial hair. With a sword and pistols, you change between 4 playstyles on the fly with Dante. There's the famous Swordmaster, Gunslinger, Trickster, and Royal Guard styles. Each have their own techniques. It's Dante's wide array of moves. So the plot of Devil May Cry 5 involves a massive demonic tree called the Qlipoth, which has sprouted in Redgrave City. And this is a giant entity that is created by the Demon King, Urizen. Urizen took the right forearm of a devil hunter named Nero to give himself even more power. And after a team led by the infamous son of Sparta, Dante, seemingly falls to Urizen, it is up to Nero and the mysterious individual V to figure out how to destroy the Qlipoth. Can Urizen be defeated? Who really is V? And will the Qlipoth fall? Joe, here's where I'll ask you, what are our experiences with Devil May Cry 5?
So I got into the Devil May Cry series because of the now defunct Super Best Friends. Because in the lead up to Devil May Cry 5, they did LPs of Devil May Cry 1, 3, and 4, which I watched because I've never played those games. I bounced off of 3 hard. I'm sure I told that story 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. Wow. And so I was really pumped for 5 when it came out. Bought it at launch. Played through the whole thing within like 2 days. It's super, super good. It's got a really, really good story. V is probably one of the most fun characters to play in anything, like any game like this I've ever played, and then Nero is a very close second. Dante's a bit much for me. He's so complicated. And apparently, like, I'm not the only one that thinks that. Seasoned Devil May Cry fans think that he's a little much in this one.
Yeah, I think I did the same sort of thing where I watched the Devil May Cry series in a lot of long plays leading up to it, because it's a series that just oozes with style. It's so cool. The characters are so cool. Even characters like Lady, as we mentioned in Devil May Cry 3, just fantastic. But yeah, knowing a little bit about Devil May Cry 4 helps. Going into Devil May Cry 5, I feel like for newcomers to the series, they try to catch you up on the story, but I feel like it's questionable how good of a job that recap in the main menu actually is. So it's definitely a series that rewards knowledge of it, but you can play it and get some enjoyment because, wow, the combat is good. I agree with you. I didn't think V would be as fun on concept alone, but yeah, he's great. Great fun to play as. Nero has so many different options to him, but yeah, Dante is, I feel like, trying to call back to the original Devil May Cry fans who were a little disappointed with the Ninja Theory reboot and be like, oh, see, we know what you want. Let's throw the kitchen sink at you. it's a little crazy. But wow, the game looks good. It plays so sharp and crisp. The story, pretty fun. And the soundtrack. Oh, the soundtrack. The soundtrack was our top soundtrack of 2019, if you remember listening to our Best of 2019 episode. Because, wow, it's great.
Yeah, it's so good. I do want to mention, you mentioned the recap video that the game can play beforehand. And it's really funny to me that even they know that Devil May Cry fans don't care about Devil May Cry 2. Because because the anime has more screen time in that recap than 2 does. 2 basically is summed up as, and then Devil May Cry 2 happened. And then it moves on. It's really funny.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Devil May Cry 2, you may remember in the story when we were talking about in the episode for Devil May Cry 3 that in the middle of Devil May Cry 2, the director changed and Hideaki Itsuno took up direction, starting with Devil May Cry 2 for that series. He directed 3, 4. He didn't do the Ninja Theory DMC reboot in 2013, but he was a supervising director, like a producer. But yeah, after Devil May Cry 4 in 2008, remember, that was quite a while ago, Itsuno would then work on Dragon's Dogma, but DMC4 would get a special edition in 2015. And so there was always questions if a new Devil May Cry, a proper Devil May Cry game, an Itsuno Devil May Cry game would ever be made again. And then in January 2016, Itsuno tweeted that he was working on a project well in development which could not yet be announced. And maybe some people thought, Dragon's Dogma 2? Because people do like Dragon's Dogma. Oh, but no. In March of 2016, Ruben Langdon and Johnny Young Bosch, who had done voice acting and motion capture for Dante and Nero respectively in Devil May Cry 4, took pictures of themselves in motion capture gear, leading to speculation that a new Devil May Cry game was in development. Oh, it sure was. I learned that even though Devil May Cry 5, of course, it's a sequel to 4, Johnny Young Bosch still had to do 3 auditions to reprise his role as Nero, and this was due to the large time that the game took to be made. So it wasn't a sure thing, apparently.
That's weird. I can't imagine anybody else voicing that character.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, Johnny Young Bosch, already an anime staple in 2008, and it's interesting hearing his voice in 2020. It's like, oh yeah, that's the same voice. He's very talented, but yeah, it just feels like of a different time of like hearing his voice in everything. Itsuno wanted better feeling controls for the characters in this game to have it feel like it was taking the next step. And he was apparently inspired by a movie where 3 robots combined into one giant bot and overcame their foe, which moved him to tears.
Same.
He also wanted the cinematic feel and epic scale of Marvel's Avengers films, so those also inspired him. The team aimed for photorealism with the graphics. I mean, those faces in the RE engine, I feel like are just the most staggeringly impressive thing about this game. Technology continues to get better, facial, motion capture, all that. The RE engine just looks so good, especially with faces. I don't know what you think about it.
Oh, it does great. It does absolutely fantastic. Like the Baker family still looks great. I'm pretty sure I talked about that in Resident Evil 7. And this just like ups it super hard from there.
To take these characters that we know from the Devil May Cry series and give them these kind of faces, like it's super impressive. Wow. The team also made multiple research trips to England. They tried to take buildings from England as like the inspiration for how Redgrave City looks, and they just wanted to generate better looking stages overall. So some of these locations included Midhurst in West Sussex, Rochester, Kent, Canterbury, and Leeds Castle in Kent. And then E3 2018 happened, where at the Xbox conference of all places, DMC is back. The trailer that showed, the city with demons. And I feel like I caught on way early. Well, once I started seeing demons, and it was one of those rumors going into E3 2018, like, hey, maybe this is the show where Devil May Cry 5 happens. And you start to see that. And once the Capcom screen hits, people knew. I think a lot of people knew. I feel like once you got the feeling it was like an RE Engine thing, and then Capcom hit, and then there were demons in the city. Anyway, great trailer. Holy cow. A fantastic reveal. But I think most impressive was the song during it, where Devil Trigger debuted and then became a huge phenomenon on YouTube. Like, people loved this song. And sure enough, it was one of the team's favorite songs. We'll get to it in the Critical 5, of course. But wow, I mean, Joe, do you remember watching that trailer and your thoughts on it?
I didn't watch it until much later because I hadn't gotten into the Devil May Cry series yet, so I didn't really care. Because again, those LPs on Super Best Friends only happened in the lead up to Devil May Cry 5. And so eventually I did go back to it. It actually took me several months to hear Devil Trigger for the first time. And then from there, it was just like, oh, I'm going to listen to this song forever. And then the game came out and I continued to listen to the song. I was listening to this song earlier today, as a matter of fact.
It's just one of those songs. It's real special. Devil May Cry 5 reviewed very well, with a Metacritic score of 89 on PC, 88 on Xbox One, and 87 on PS4. Honestly, yeah, it's the combat gameplay that just shines. It is easy to learn, it is fun to learn, but it is difficult to master. And yeah, each character is at least interesting and enjoyable to play as, even if Dante is a bit much. I'd say the plot is mostly good. There are some hit or miss elements there, such as we mentioned, a relatively high barrier of entry to the series and a bit of a rushed ending. As of September 2020, sales figures had risen to 3.7 million copies sold, making it the best-selling title in the series. It won Best Action Game at the Game Awards. It was nominated also at the Game Awards for Best Score/Music. It was nominated for 2 DICE Awards. It also won Excellence in Gameplay at the South by Southwest Awards, while it was nominated for Game of the Year, Excellence in Musical Score, and Technical Achievement. Its legacy today, Legacy is the name of the theme song for the game. Anyway, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition is coming to launch for the Xbox Series X and S, as well as PlayStation 5. It features a new playable character, a new difficulty level, a turbo mode of 20% faster speed. There's ray tracing, 4K 60 with an optional 120 FPS mode. It just goes on and on and on. The reveal trailer that showed during the PS5 State of Play, I think it was the one where they revealed the box for PS5, highlighted this song is called Bury the Light. This is composed by Casey Edwards featuring Victor Borba. And wow, it's kind of like if the music of Devil May Cry 5 met Metal Gear Rising. Ooh, it's good. Wow.
I think it's very good, but also, is this really going to feel good during battle? I mean, whatever. It's a battle song, and that's a little weird, but overall, though, this song is so good.
Just a taste, a little snippet of what the music can sound like before we get to the Critical 5. But before we do that, let's talk about one of the composers for Devil May Cry 5. This is Kota Suzuki. Kota Suzuki was born on September 8th, 1980, in Kokubunji, Tokyo, Japan. He goes by the aliases Kota, K-O-T-A, and KS. Initials make sense. He is blood type A.
Oh, man.
Kota Suzuki is also the name of a professional Japanese soccer player, so it makes it a little difficult to search things. But Kota Suzuki joined Capcom in 2003, and he shared thoughts about 3 things that he thinks are important to creating music for high-end games. 1, understanding what the game needs from the music. 2, never losing your own values. And 3, cooperating so that the composer best fit for the song or element is given that chance. So those are his thoughts on 3 AAA game composing thoughts. His discography includes his start at Capcom included work on Onimusha 3, Demon Siege, and Shadow of Rome. Then he worked on Devil May Cry 4, and of course eventually 5. But he did a lot of work for the Resident Evil series, including 5, 6, The Mercenaries 3D, Revelations 1 and 2, Umbrella Corps, and even a few tracks for this year's Resident Evil 3 remake. He arranged Where the Wind Blows on Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, so we covered that song before on the show, and also arranged Rubberman Stage on Mega Man 11. So there are a lot of composers on this soundtrack as well, not as much for Yakuza 5. That was a whole bunch, but the composers on Devil May Cry 5 include Kota Suzuki, John R. Graham, Yoshia Terayama, Hiromitsu Maeba, Casey Edwards, Stephen McNair, Cody Matthew Johnson, and Jeff Rona. We will cover songs by 6 of them. So Suzuki mentions how, quote, as a rule, we considered which composer would be able to best bring out the personality of the song and divvied them up that way, though there are a couple of songs that were indirect collaborations by means of remix or arrangements. We've mentioned before with Devil May Cry 5 how it is a dynamic soundtrack, in that director Hideaki Itsuno was also very interested in interactive music, so it was actually his idea that the battle themes start with an intro and then proceed to the verses once you begin your skirmish with enemies. But it goes beyond that because, quote, when you've entered into an encounter, the intro will begin playing, and then once the first attack has landed, it kicks into the first verse. Once you've hit style rank S or better, the song then proceeds to the chorus. And finally, once you've exterminated all the enemies, the outro plays. If your style rank decreases at all throughout the battle, it will return to the verse part. He even mixes up which verse plays first for those that aren't good to consistently reach S rank in battle. And it's actually supposed to be a kind of motivation to help players get better at the game. Maybe you'll hear cooler music. It's one of the neater things about the game.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's so good. It's if I remember correctly, they went to Platinum and asked for their technology they used in Rising.
Yes.
In Revengeance. Yes. And that's how that ended up getting put into the game. That might just be something I made up in my head and have memory of reading, but I'm pretty sure that was the case. But yeah, it's really well implemented.
I feel like we've mentioned something like that before. That sounds about right. They wanted the idea of the music as a whole, it felt like the end of the world, they said, like when reading the story, the characters. So how do we translate that into music? Well, yeah, a big giant demon tree grown in a city. That kind of feels apocalyptic. But when it came to the soul of the music in the DMC series, Suzuki said, quote, specifically music that rocks. Or in other words, music that doesn't follow too closely in theory, music that sounds cool or clearly exhibits originality. One other thing, quote, music that has a tinge of death. Or in other words, you can still feel fear or coldness from the song, even though it's upbeat. It needs to have dark elements. So, rock and death. Yeah, that kind of checks out for Devil May Cry 5 and just the Devil May Cry series in general. For this game, though, they say they used a plethora of genres. Cinematic orchestra, classic, EDM, industrial rock, metal, hard techno, gent, ambient. It's all over the place. They say, because all these genres were made to express the same world, we made sure that there was a consistency throughout them. So overall, it does have a sort of same feel, but it goes a whole bunch of different places, as we'll hear in the 5 critical tracks for Devil May Cry 5. We have to start with the first one, as we already mentioned, Devil Trigger. This is composed by Casey Edwards with vocals by Ali Edwards. We've mentioned them before on the Killer Instinct episode. That's pretty neat. This song is Nero's main battle theme. And Itsuno, quote, wanted something that felt new to the series with elements that younger people would like. Oh, and younger people did like we like this song a whole lot. This song is just hype all over. And I feel like if there's one song that you need to know from this game, it's this one. You got to know Devil Trigger. To the point where, like, when it was playing in the reveal trailer for the game, and there's bang, 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 pull my Devil Trigger. Like, it's one of those nods because Devil Trigger is the super mode that you can transition into temporarily for combat that gives you extra attack power. You get to heal a little bit. So it's definitely a thing in the Devil May Cry series, and it's like, it's a clever little nod, but wow, this song is so good. It's amazing. You heard it today, even.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's such a good song. It's the best song in the game by far, 100%, just without a doubt. And it was the perfect song to reveal this game to. And it's also the perfect song for Nero because this song just feels like Nero. I love Devil Trigger so much.
It's so good. But I feel like when it comes to our attentions for battle themes, this next one gets close. Number 2 on their Critical 5, this is Crimson Cloud. This is composed by Jeff Rona, and this is V's main battle theme. So Jeff Rona and Cody Matthew Johnson, who we'll mention more a little bit later, they both worked on a remix of Devil May Cry 3's Devils Never Cry for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And this led them, because their work was accepted well, led them to being selected for this project.
That's really surprising because, and this is I don't mean to speak ill of them, that remix sucks. It's not very good. The Marvel vs. Capcom 3 version is so much better, but I'm glad that it led to this song, I suppose.
Because it is a really, really good song. And of course, because V is a new character to the franchise, they were very careful to make sure that any new themes that were created for this weren't really tied to anything else in the franchise. I feel like they did a pretty good job with that, because where else are you going to hear Savior, Bloodstain, Hellfire, Shadow?
If you have to ask, it's too late.
I feel like we've shared the story, at least between ourselves, that like we both hated this song at first, but then it grows on you super hard, and it's actually like really great in game.
Yeah, when I first heard this song outside of the context of actually playing the game, oh wow, I thought it was bad. I thought it was real bad, but after playing Devil May Cry 5, and also after realizing that like V is one of the best parts of that game too, yeah, it grows on you so heavily that it is legitimately probably in my top 3 songs in the entire game, but I don't know if I'd call it number 2.
Ooh, interesting. Number 3 on their Critical 5. Let's get to something completely different. This is Any Special Orders? This is composed by Stephen McNair. No, obviously not the former NFL quarterback. This is the theme for Nico's Shop. And Nico is a character that is tangentially tied to Devil May Cry lore, but she is the creator of the Devil Breaker. She crafts Nero's trick arms and, customizes them, sells new ones, etc. She is a breath of fresh air. Maybe a strange choice of a dub voice. Just saying, it's a little strange sometimes, like the lip flaps don't match up, but she's just got great energy. It's a good shot of comic relief, I think, into the game. Just a fun character overall. But the song is a totally different vibe, as you may have heard. Those acoustic guitars, you got a clean electric guitar melody, really tight drum kit, and an interesting, over-modulated electric bass that is doing some interesting synth effects with it. It's a cool song. You're going to visit Nico's shop quite a bit, so you might as well enjoy and get used to this song.
I think this is the song that I would put at number 2 for me. I absolutely love this piece. It's so catchy, and it's probably the non-vocal song I've listened to the most from this whole game. It's just great, and Nico is such a fun character. She's so much fun. I love her voice, but yeah, the lip flaps are a bit jarring. But the way that she is able to keep up with Nero in terms of just snappy comebacks.
Yeah.
And her invincible van.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes, the van that plows through everything to be available for assistance. I feel like it was the trailer that revealed the game where it was just like, hey honey, need assistance, and it was just not fit in well. That it just gives the wrong initial impression. But yeah, her character is fantastic, and yeah, wow, this song sounds very different but so good.
Every time I think about Nico, I think about that scene where I think it's she's coming in from above and crashes down onto the ground and says something to Nero that's around told you I'd make it. And then when Nero turns around, she just goes, oh God, I almost died.
Yeah.
I love Nico. She's great.
She is great. Let's get back to that usual DMC sound though. Number 4 on the Critical 5 is Voltaic Black Knight. This is composed by Yoshiya Terayama and is the boss battle theme against Cavalier Angelo. Big black knight. They're probably 2 to 3 times Dante's size, and as a result, it being knight-like and bigger than you, I think it's almost like the most Dark Souls-like boss, because he's got a big electric sword that he's using against Dante. And that's quite the battle, and this music to go with it. I mean, right from the get-go, it starts hard, and then once it gets these aggressive punk-like drums, it kind of feels like it almost goes off the rails, but honestly, that kind of fits with the chaos of the battle. I feel like this one's just always stuck with me as a boss battle from kind of the mid-game.
I think that it's the one I don't think about the most, though I remember how it ends, obviously, because
sure
it's just it's really dumb and I love it. The weapon he gets after this fight is the stupidest yet coolest weapon he has, and that's counting the hat.
Yes.
But yeah, that's what I think about the most when I think about the Cavalier Angelo fight. But yeah, this song is top notch. It's very, very good. So I do definitely think it belongs with the Critical 5.
Also tough to keep it to just 30 seconds. I mean, wow, there are so many good parts of this song. Also tough. So many of these songs to keep to 30 seconds, a shame. My second favorite song, I think, is number 5 on the Critical 5. This is The Duel. Boy, Casey Edwards brings the hype as he composed this one as well. This is for Dante's final battle in the game. But for real though, honestly, the hardest boss fight in the game. Oh my gosh, is it difficult. Just an amazing piece though, with these guitars and drums like really setting a pace. And then this electronic backing behind it, it keeps you on edge. It adds its own intense rhythms to it, building up ultimately to the musical moment that this clip starts with. I think it's just unreal, though, how good this song is in game, especially when it hits with those like the choir going too. Oh, love this song.
You're not wrong. This is the hardest boss fight in the game. It's the only one that killed me multiple times on easy. Even on easy, this boss does not pull his punches. He will mess you up. It's insane, but it's also perfect for what that fight is supposed to be. So I'm not gonna fault it. And yeah, this song rules and makes that fight even cooler.
Absolutely. I think it's totally fitting. Well, as we've both played this game, we each have songs on the cutting room floor. Joe, I'll hesitantly start with you.
We have to talk about it. Neither of us want to talk about it, but we have to talk about it. You might notice that we're missing one of the character battle themes. On this Critical 5, we got Nero, we got V. Where's Dante? First track on my cutting room floor is Subhuman.
You cannot kill me. I am Omega. You cannot kill me. I am subhuman. You cannot kill me. I cannot erase. I am Omega. I lose control. You cannot kill me. Can I erase? Must explode.
The song was composed by Cody Matthew Johnson and performed by Suicide Silence. It is, like I said, the Dante battle theme. It was originally sung by the band's lead vocalist Eddie Hermida, but following sexual misconduct allegations against him, he was replaced by then former Volumes vocalist Michael Barr. I remember that being a whole thing when the game was coming out. In fact, I believe reviewers were playing unpatched versions that still had the original vocalist. That's how late he was replaced. The idea for this theme, apparently, according to Peter's research, was to explore the dark and goofy sides of Dante's personality through the instruments being played. And hey, this song sucks. This song is bad.
The research said the team tried really hard to find a song that fit and that they were happy with. No, this is miserable to listen to. And it's a good thing that I think Dante is very vocal in his combat stylings, that it sometimes may drown it out, honestly. But I don't need, you cannot kill me, I am Omega. I don't. Some people, if you like that kind of metal, fine, but wow, it didn't really fit.
It didn't land in the game either, because when it was initially revealed, it was universally disliked by everybody.
Yeah, it was polar opposite from Devil Trigger, and I think that was the real shocker there.
Oh my god, this song, Again, I mean no ill will towards Cody Matthew Johnson. I don't know anything about Suicide Silence, but apparently their lead vocalist was a bad person, so But like, this song's just not good. In fact, when I add this music to the Spotify playlist, I think I might just casually forget to add this song to the playlist, which is not something I've done for this whole show so far, so you'll thank us later. It's not a good song. But my other song on the cutting room floor is Diabolical Incantation. This might be a weird one for some people. I imagine you're a bit surprised that this is the song I picked of all of them.
Sure.
It was composed by Yoshia Terayama. It is the music for the Malphas boss theme, which if you've played the game, Malphas is the ladies riding a featherless chicken that's giant, and she can make portals and stuff. She's a really, really memorable design. Mm-hmm. Like a really memorable design. And one of the few bosses that's like a character that will talk to you while you fight. And so you fight her as Nero, and it's a lot of fun because Nero snaps back about everything. And it's a fun, memorable boss fight. And I wanted to highlight that. I like it a lot.
It kind of leans more into the goth vibe. I definitely dig it.
It feels closer to something I would have heard in Devil May Cry 1 before the sort of metal aesthetic was brought in.
Yeah, that's fair. My two, I have to bring up Silver Bullet. It would make sense that this is composed by Casey Edwards with vocals by Ali Edwards because it's a remix of Devil Trigger. It's got some more electronic vibes to it, but this plays during the final boss of the game in one of the great moments of the game that we may be talking about on a spoiler cast. Spoiler warning for Devil May Cry 5. Check that out on your podcast services in the bonus feed. But I love this song. This is my favorite song in the game. I could listen to this song for a half hour plus. Oh, wait, I already have done that multiple times. I feel like this is just such a great song. And as much as I love Devil Trigger, I feel like it just takes it up to another level of listening for me.
I prefer Devil Trigger personally. I think Devil Trigger is a better version. But this song is still really cool, especially because it plays during such a cool moment. Which, I'm very excited to talk about.
Yes, absolutely. Another interesting kind of spoiler moment, I guess, has music that's highlighted in this second track on the cutting room floor. This is Dr. Faust. We did it! Finally! This one is composed by Kota Suzuki. Hey! This is where Dante acquires Dr. Faust, which is his hat weapon. It's probably the most WTF moment of the game, certainly for a cutscene, but it is just fantastic to have a hat that you throw around as your weapon. But yeah, wow, this moment comes really out of nowhere.
It is a super weird moment, but it's also completely in character because, Devil May Cry 4 has him doing a thing where he's destroying something while telling a poem about his dick. So
Yes.
like, this is something that Dante would do 100%. When I think of Dr. Faust, the main thing I think of is when I watched the Pat and Wooly play Devil May Cry 5 on Wooly's channel, Wooly Versus. When they got Dr. Faust, Pat was showing Wooly the weapon, because the way they did it was Wooly played as V and Nero and Pat played as Dante. And Wooly started asking, like, all right, so what does it get in Swordmaster? Pat was like, what? It's a gun. It doesn't get anything. Oh. So what does it get in Trickster? Wooly, it's a gun. It doesn't get anything. What about Gunslinger? It doesn't. Wooly, it's a gun. It's just like his brain just breaks for some reason, and it's really weird. It's one of my favorite moments from that whole LP. The other one being a huge spoiler that, again, we'll talk about in a bit.
Yep.
And so that's what I think about when I think of Dr. Faust. The dance is secondary.
Yes, and apparently they had to get a different stunt person because Ruben Langdon couldn't do it. So, yeah. What will I never forget about Devil May Cry 5? I believe this was the first game that I played on an Xbox One X. So yeah, that 4K 60 HDR was juicy. It was great. And then, oh my gosh, like the RE Engine faces just pop even more, and it's just like, loved this game. It was one of my favorite games of 2019. Certainly favorite soundtrack, and I'm really glad we got to finally bring it to the show.
It was also my favorite soundtrack of 2019. It was number 2 for me for the year. I believe Untitled Goose Game topped it as my game of the year that year. But Devil May Cry 5, I believe, was a very close second. It's great. It's the only Devil May Cry game I've played. I do want to go back and try 1, 3, and 4 at some point. Maybe just 3 and 4.
One's a little rough these days, yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah. But in a week of talking about games with 5s in them, I mean, talking about multiple playable characters, I mean, it's a great time, great soundtracks. I mean, Yakuza and Devil May Cry 5. We're talking about great music for sure. But that'll do it for us this week on Original Soundchat. You can find me on Twitter at Pete Speakeasy. Joe is over at The Debaga. The video version of the show is on the Rhymes with Asia YouTube channel, also at rhymeswithasia.com. But it's that MP3 podcast version that you want, hosted by Anonymous Dinosaur at anondino.squarespace.com. You can find the podcast on podcast services all around the globe, including Spotify. And we have the podcast feed on Spotify, but also a Spotify playlist. So whenever we talk about a video game track on this show, we can add it to the Spotify playlist, unless it's subhuman. Joe, what are we adding this week?
Both of these games are on Spotify, baby.
Yeah. Excellent. Love it. Then you can find us on social media once you're done listening. You can find us at Soundchat OST on different social media platforms there. Leave us feedback. How are we doing with these episodes, as well as suggestions for games that you'd like us to cover in the future. We're working on some bonus tracks for you, including a spoiler warning for Devil May Cry 5. And you should also ask us Q&A questions, because next week we're recording our Thanksgiving Q&A episode in addition to our next episode. But yeah, ask us some questions and we'll pull together a special Thanksgiving episode for you answering those.
You can ask anything. Like, you can ask anything. It doesn't even need to be about video game music.
Oh, yes. Anything's on the table. Joe, who are we talking about next week?
I will be talking about Yuka Kitamura.
I will be talking about Yasuaki Iwata. All right, to play us out, it's got to be a cover of Devil Trigger, right? It's the song from the game, so we got to talk about it. And Rashad E.B. we've talked about on the show before. He did a metal cover featuring Lolia on vocals and Little V Mills on guitar. It's a pretty stellar mashup of talent and a great metal cover of a great song. So please check that out. Thank you so much for listening this week on Original Soundchat. We'll see you next time. Take care.